What Called Dhillon podcast. I'm Angie Dhillon.
And I'm Rose Dhillon.
And I'm Alvin Dhillon.
And let's get into our Win of the Week segment. Please go ahead and drop your Win of the Week into our comment section. And I'm pointing like this as if like the YouTube comment section is just below me. Feel free to share your Win of the Week with us. We would love to hear about what's going on in your life, and we'll tell you what's going on in ours. Over to you, Rose.
I like that, Ange. I have 2 wins. So I was in Chicago for the week, as you know. I had a work meeting. And so one of the meetings we had was presented by our 2 people. One of them was a CFO. And generally, as you know, in companies, the CFO are men. And it was a woman. And not only was it a woman, she was a pregnant woman. And I just felt really proud. I felt really excited to see her up there. She had great answers to the questions that we gave her. And it just made me feel more of like, I can be that. I can do that role. I can be where she's at. So it really motivated me, inspired me to see her up there. And I felt really excited. The second one was after our work meetings, we ended up having a boat cruise in Chicago. And I really highly recommend to the viewers, if you're ever in Chicago, take a boat cruise. It's a lot of fun, really good history. Our woman that was kind of educating us about the whole thing was great because there was buildings on both sides as you go through it. And what I learned was the Trump Tower that's in Chicago, the person who built that is the same builder that did the Burj Khalifa in Dubai.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So that was really cool. So I learned a lot there. I can't remember all of it, but that one stood out to me. So yeah, those are my 2 wins of the week.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
Al, your Win of the Week?
I guess my win is not just a win for me. It's the win for the audience and all our viewers. I've been trying to think about like, how can we step up our game? Like I want to make it to the next level. And what I found is I really enjoy watching music videos. I enjoy like the cinematography, the videography behind it, the storytelling, all in a matter of 5 minutes. So I was like, how can we do that with our content? So I've been researching it, how to make more cinematic content. So I'm in that stage right now. So I'm hoping by the new year, you're going to start seeing our quality of our skits, podcasts to the next level. And I've already got the hardware called a gimbal, which basically allows you to shoot like all your moving scenes, whatever you do without that camera shake and give it that more cinematic look. So I'm in the learning and researching stage right now of how to make more cinematic content.
That's very cool.
Amazing.
Huge win. Amazing.
Yep.
It's learning and development.
Yeah.
You're on there.
You're welcome, viewers. You're welcome.
I'm not sure if I can't even remember now if I brought this up in the previous one, but I've got 2 wins. The first one is I went to the gym 4 out of 7 days of the week last week. Woo.
Woohoo.
I feel
Awesome.
great. My second one is I got a pop filter. To my listeners and to our audience, I have to apologize in advance. I have a tendency of notice when I go back and I play my episodes, I'm breathing awkwardly, heavily. I'm convinced I have a deviated septum. Got a little bit of asthma, reactive airway. It's part of the aging process.
It sounds like you're gasping for air. Whenever I go back to do that, I was like, man, I was like, she's struggling to breathe over here. What's going
I don't know
on?
what's going on. I just want you all, folks at home and listeners, I'm trying to figure out what is going on with my breathing. Is it because I've got a deviated septum? What is going on in my lungs here? I've gone for all sorts of testings. They're like, you have a reactive airway. I'm like, what does that mean? Oh, you need an asthma pump. I'm like, that's not right. Why do I have an active airway? That triggers this amazing gasping thing. So anyhow, I'm hoping we are trying to figure out the gasping and get my breathing under control and check. So please do not write me off anytime soon. I'm working to improve that. So that is a big win.
That's
Getting
a huge
closer,
win.
one breath at a time.
Yeah.
You have to own yourself.
I agree. Own
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I am like the biggest critic. When I go back and I listen to my episodes, I cringe. I'm like, if I can hear it, I know our listeners and our viewers can hear it. So just want you to know I'm working on that. Yeah. It's a construction zone.
It's a work in progress.
It is a construction
Yeah.
zone. You're absolutely, I love that. We're all
That's
a
right.
construction zone here.
Mhm.
We're all learning and trying this whole, the podcast world, this cinematic world of making reels. And it's fun, but it's interesting. But we're just, learning.
We're learning and growing.
We're learning out loud.
We're learning a lot. And besides, if anyone tries to go out there and trolling me, I'm trolling myself. So just there, I'm getting my breathing under check. Let's get into today's content. We actually are bringing a TV show to you. And I know that a couple months ago, we discussed Ted Lasso. And I want you, our listeners and our viewers to know, I want to just let you know why some of the topics and why we talk about some of these things. Collectively, when the three of us get together on a weekend and we just shoot the shit, we actually have these types of conversations. We go from all the way from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. We talk about basically the 4-day work week. We will
spirituality,
talk about mental health issues. We will talk about our big fat Indian parties. And then we'll go all the way to like, hey, what TV show did you watch? So there's a wide range of things. We do a dance. And the reason for that is I don't want us to be boring. I don't want to talk about the same thing over and over again. We want to go from spirituality. We want to talk about life after death. We want to talk about things that people don't, that you might not necessarily hear on a podcast, but it's truth for us because that is actually our real life conversations that we talk about. Everything in life is interconnected. Your job, spirituality, the types of shows that you watch, who you hang around with. And we're just kind of bringing light to some of these types of topics because we find enjoyment out of it. And if we find enjoyment, we really hope that we're able to give you some nuggets of information that can help you navigate through the days of your struggles or, just your day-to-day navigation through life.
I like that, Ange. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to piggyback off that because you're right. Sometimes I hear about things that I think are important. I know that we're in a digital world now, so people do spend a little more than probably average time on social media or watching a show. So if we can bring some kind of show to your attention that's actually positive and uplifting, that's what we're here to do. So like Angie said, we spend a lot of time thinking about things that we do or that we want to talk about, and it's all over. It's probably all over the place, but that's just it. You have to be well-rounded in every aspect of your life. You could have spiritually doing really well, but if you're not mentally doing well, then how is that going to, psychologically or emotionally? And so we try to bring our best foot forward. Even just before we start taping, we put the effort in to make sure our energy levels are high, and we do that by dancing because the three of us love dancing, and we know that gets our energy flowing and moving. So we do that before we actually start taping, and sometimes we'll meditate before we start taping. So we just try to bring our best energy forward. And I hope that you guys can see that.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're human beings. So we are just like everybody else. We do enjoy watching TV and doing it's not, we're all just focused on one thing. We're not just meditating 24/7. Right. We're not monks. We're enjoying life too as well. We're taking everything and we're taking everything in moderation, a little bit of everything. Cause I think that's the way you got to live.
We're taking things in stride.
Yeah.
And I like to, Al, I think when you and I were talking over the weekend, you said that we're kind of like a variety show.
We're a variety show. Yeah.
We really are. I like that.
Because I like doing different things. I don't like just saying, I want to just do podcasting. That's it. No, I want to go create other videos, create motivational content, create cool stuff that when we're making it and we're doing it, we're like, this is fun. This is cool. Yeah. Let's see if other people like it.
It inspires us.
Yeah,
and if it inspires us, then you can hopefully inspire you. That's really the logic behind it, is if this inspires us, motivates us, elevates us.
And it keeps us growing. So then you're honing new skills, you're growing new skills. Like before we started this, I've never used Adobe Premiere Pro. I've used basic video editors, make small skits, make certain things for like people's receptions or little slideshows. But when I was getting into this, I was like, I got two options here. I can either learn the easy application software, which I know if we're going to do this in a long run, which that's what we're planning to do. I was like, I'm going to eventually have to go to the software that's the basic industry standard. I might as well learn the hard one now, and it'll save me all the time in the future. So I was like, let's just do that. So I learned a new application, and every time I use it, I learn new little tricks to go quicker, a little faster, a little shortcuts. So it's cool. It's fun. And while you're doing it, sometimes you get a little frustrated. You're like, oh, why can't I figure this out? But thank God for YouTube, because you go on YouTube and you're stuck. You type in exactly what you're stuck for. You get the fix. You continue moving. And once you get the finished product, you're like, oh, wow, I did that.
And the best part is, Al, you're my YouTube. So when I'm stuck creating content, making real, I just call you.
I'm everybody's IT support on YouTube. Yep. My uncle calls me. I'll see his call on like 9 o'clock at night. I was like, I know what's going down. Something on this computer. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, I'm getting this pop-up. What should I do? And I'm like, I got that too. Outlook is telling you to clean up your mailboxes. It's a new thing that just came out like a month ago. They're trying to go back and clean it up. And he's like, I can't send any emails. I'm stuck. I have to send an emergency email. So I was like, hold on. And I've already trained him on give me the code to your computer. So I remote in because I cannot explain it to him. We're going to be playing this merry-go-round forever. So I just like, give me the code, give him the code, go into his computer, show him where his biggest files are. I was like, delete these, clear it, send the email, call it a night.
Love it. I love it. You are the resident family IT guy, Al.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of people have video call too. If I'm not even by the computer, I'll just be like, okay, what's that video call me? And then the hardest part is getting to flip their camera around to show them the screen. They're like, hold on 1 second. Do you see it now? I know I see your face. So just hit that one button so you can see it, and they'll just turn the phone around because they can't figure the buttons.
That's cute.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that was a PSA pitch. I wanted to just kind of throw out a little disclaimer. And the fact is, it's about longevity for us when it comes to this podcast. We want to be around for the long haul, and we want to enjoy the process. So we are going to be speaking to you about things that we really like to speak about, talk about, or something that catches our eye. We're going to bring it to your attention because all three of us, and to our digital friends, we're all learning together and growing together. So that's just my message there. We got excited about a new show.
Yeah.
And Alvin, you talk about this because you introduced it to Rose.
No, I
Rose
introduced it. Yeah.
And it somehow came to me, and I'm always late to the party. Like I said, I'm always late to getting to everything, but it is a great show, and we want to do a recap about it.
Yep.
Over to you, Rose.
Yeah, we'll start. So I think Apple is just stepping up their game when it comes to bringing programs out, TV shows. And so I don't know why I always now, if I'm having a weekend that I don't really want to go anywhere and I want to sit and I want to watch TV, I think about okay, I'm just going to stick to Apple now because, I've had good experience. The morning show, I had Ted Lasso. And so something came up and said, well, if you like Ted Lasso, we think you'll like Shrinking. And I was like, all right, let's give it a try. And I loved Shrinking. Again, I love this show because as someone who's going through therapy myself, it was such a relatable show. It was just wonderful, is what I'll tell the viewers. But I won't
explain what it's about. Though,
right. I figured since she's got questions, I didn't want to ruin the.
Give the gist of the show.
Okay.
In a nutshell, in one phrase here, Shrinking the show is about a grieving therapist who lost his wife. Yeah. That's all I'm going to tell you because I actually want you to go and tune in and watch it. It is hilarious. Yeah. Let's get into some of our questions here.
Yeah.
I want to go to Al now because you kind of already, your face just lit up. So I'm going to ask you about this here. Al, what do you think about Apple's new show?
I love it. It's another great show that makes you think and makes you kind of soak in what they're telling you. It's not the standard structure of a show. And when I first saw it come out, I actually saw it come out on my guide, and I was like, I favorited it because whenever new shows pop out, I'm like, I go in the description. I saw Harrison Ford in there, and another show. I was like, this has got to be somewhat decent Harrison Ford. And so I started, but I never went back. I just had it saved. I was like, I'll save it for a time when I need to watch a show. And then I think a few weeks later, Rose was like, have you seen the show Shrinking? I was like, no, I've been waiting to watch it. She's like, you need to watch it. So I watched the first episode. I think the first episode was okay. It was the second episode it got better. And I was like, this is a really good show. It's funny. It's uplifting. And it just keeps making you think wow, what's next? You guys keep just raising the bar on the next one. And then just to sidetrack one thing, I actually learned a little tidbit about Ted Lasso. We loved that show so much. And I guess I was watching a lot of it. And this clip came on my YouTube, and it was 8 years ago or 9 years ago for about Ted Lasso talking at a conference. I was like, what's this? And then I learned that Ted Lasso was actually created by NBC 10 years ago to promote when the soccer league came to the United States. Okay. They had this little this clip that they created, this skit of Ted Lasso being an American coach going to teach soccer. So all those little skits that they did was actually done to promote soccer 10 years ago, and they turned it into a show. And I was
10 years later.
And I was like, oh, I learned something. It was amazing. So
that's cool.
Because in that,
basically a lot of the clips that you shot on the show were clips that he's already shot before 10 years ago. They turned it into a show.
Oh,
yeah, all those exact line for line, the stuff that he said was put into the show.
Cool.
Very cool.
Very cool. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Very cool. What do I think about this show? I think it's amazing because I'm also in therapy as well, and I'm loving it. And I was always curious that when I'm dumping my problems on the therapist, what's going on in the therapist?
Yeah, that's
right. Yeah. And I used to ask my therapist all the time. I'm like, well, everyone's dumping their problems on you. Who do you dump to? And I had a few of my therapists tell me that they actually have their own therapist that they go and dump to as well, or they have, they engage in other sorts of activities, meditational stuff to kind of just declutter their minds. So for me, it's a great show. It's a great show for those of you that are in therapy right now, and you can probably relate when you go in for your session what it's like or what it's not like, the buildup and just the relief, the relief of when you're going there and you're speaking to a professional. But keep in mind, these professionals, they've got their own lives as well, and they're going through stuff as well. So to see the flip side of it on this show was really cool for me.
Agreed. And that's funny you say that, because when I went to my counselor, I was like, have you seen Shrinking? And she started laughing. I'm like, you should try that approach. I love that. I loved the approach, which was off the standard, I can't remember what it was, the one on Netflix. What's that gentleman that had that when we watched that, that actor who did the one with his therapist. They had that interview on Netflix. Do you remember what it was called? Stutz. And he was like, you go to your friends and they give you advice, and then you go to your counselor and he just listens. And we should flip the script where your friends should just listen and your counselor should give you advice because they're the professional. And that's what that show was really interesting for me, was that he was helping them unconventionally. He was trying new things to get them out of their comfort zone to help them. And I think that's what therapy should be. It shouldn't just be you sitting there listening. Give me the tools so that I can go back to my day-to-day life and not need to call you every time I'm having, a panic attack or a stress attack. I know how to cope through a difficult time. So I just think that if we're going to have these shows coming on TV, let's have them educational. Let's learn something from them.
Yeah. And do it in a fun way that you're laughing your way and also getting insights along the way.
Exactly.
Yep.
I always find when I watch shows, like the first few episodes, they're always doing character development, right? So sometimes that's why the first 1 or 2 episodes might not be that great. You're like, I don't really know about the show, but that's because they're kind of defining what each character is going to do and who you are, and you get to know the characters. By the time you get to the 3rd episode, you're like, oh, I know what this person's like and that person's like.
And it's funny how you actually kind of get attached a little bit to the characters, or you relate. If you find a character that is going through something similar that you're going through, you start connecting with them and you're like, okay, I see why like the cinematography and like the movie industry is like, it's so, we need it. Like
we need it.
The only thing is that we need more of this kind of content out there, not the other stuff where it's fear mongering and trying to instill those kind of things in you.
What reeled you in about this show though? What made you keep going at episode 5 and 6?
When I first, I think it's the first or second episode where they show that he's the therapist, right? After dealing with all these problems, they start off and make it seem like he's the guy going to therapy and you find he's a therapist. But when you find out that he's living this lifestyle because of the loss. I totally connected with that because I know that when I experienced multiple losses, I just drowned myself in alcohol and I didn't want to think. I didn't want to feel. I just wanted to be numb. And alcohol was the quickest, easiest thing to just take. And you know that after a few drinks, you're like, okay, I'm not thinking about that or whatever. You will get down that road emotional. But in that moment, you're just like, this is all I can handle right now. So I connected with that.
To connect it. Right?
Oh yeah.
Rose, you?
Yeah. I really liked what they did with Harrison Ford. I mean, first I was like, what a G, at 80 to be doing that show and killing it. Like it made me motivated to be like, maybe one day I'll be on a TV show when I'm 75 years old talking about therapy. And I love the what they introduced his girlfriend at that age, because it really goes to show people seem to feel like, you get older, you can't find someone. At any age, you can find someone. At any age, if you feel like, hey, I'm ready to, take my life to that next chapter, you can do that. And I think it was really great that they brought that character on with him and how she was, by his side through kind of his tough times. That was really a beautiful part of the show that I really enjoyed.
Nice. Everything reeled me in. I just thought it was a cool show because it was relatable. It's relevant. And I think it's a subject that we all need to talk about right now. I think post-pandemic, we're all going through something and there's still that hesitancy and that, reservation and the stigma of going and seeing a therapist. A lot of people think, oh, you're such a loser. You have to go and speak to someone. There's nothing negative about going and speaking to someone and offloading. If anything, it's actually very empowering. And I said this previously on another episode, being vulnerable, there's a superpower that comes with that. So just take it with, you know what, you are just getting the tools and adding it to your tool belt to be a badass, fierce individual. That's the way I look at it.
I like that.
Yeah. And going back to Harrison, I think he's actually 80 years old. 80. You said 75.
No, I said 80.
80?
Yeah.
You said 75.
No, he's 80 years old.
And he's actually the oldest Indiana Jones.
Really?
What?
And Harrison Ford's in there.
No way.
Last round. Yeah. So we should go and watch it.
It's inspiring just to see that he's functioning and mobile like that, and he's still witty and he's
so witty, because that's what I loved about him in the show. He was so witty and just his level of confidence and what he was bringing to the table was like, this is life experience. Like his character was life experience wisdom. You know what I mean?
Seeing Harrison Ford like that shows that if you love what you're doing, like you're gonna at 80, that's what you'll be like. You'll just keep, as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, you'll keep going.
Yeah.
There's no retirement when you enjoy what you're doing.
Have you noticed a theme with Apple TV now with what they're releasing, the type of show?
Yes.
Quality and like educational, but also uplifting. And they're also trying to like break some of those barriers or break, what's that? Like when they say we don't go to therapy, we don't do that. They're trying to,
they're challenging the status.
Yeah. Exactly. They're trying to bring that into now let's make it a little bit more part of mainstream.
Let's normalize these conversations.
No, you should be going to therapy to like decompress.
Agreed. Yeah.
And yet Go ahead, Rose.
Yeah, no, and I think they're really kind of showing us that the ego aspect. A lot of people don't understand that when they're like, what do you mean by the ego? And it's like, that voice that tells you to like have fear or anger or jealousy. Like they're really addressing, I think, that. And that's really helping people who might not have the capacity to understand that. I think they're doing it in a really good way that anybody who's watching this gets it. Like I think that scene with Ted Lasso when she comes down and she says like, I wanted you to fail. I wanted you to do all, and he just hugs her instead of being like, he understood what pain makes people do. Pain makes people do not nice things, unfortunately.
Not rational things.
Yes. Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to get into this fun part because there's so many cool characters on the show, right? Like so many. I'm going to go to you, Al. Which character did you connect with and why?
I really connected with Jason Segel, the main character, because of how he was dealing with his problems when he suffered that loss. He just couldn't handle it besides by drinking and partying and drowning himself in alcohol. And that's what I felt like at that time when I was going through quite a bit of loss. And I was also going to therapy and not going to therapy. I was doing it via the Zoom, because at that time we were in the pandemic and you couldn't go anywhere. But I felt like I was just the same way, where I was just like lying to the therapist, saying whatever they wanted to say. And I was like, I was in that zone where I just didn't want to deal or even try to get out of it or acknowledge what I'm going through. I just wanted to just be numb and just push it to the side and just go day by day type of thing. And that's why I connected with this character, because a lot of people are going through that same situation. They're using alcohol or some sort of drug as their crutch because they can't cope.
Yep. Some sort of substance.
And not substance, sugar, over exercising, over something. Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Rose?
I really liked Liz. She was the mother, the nosy neighbor. Why I liked her is I saw a lot of myself in her, which is that people pleasing aspect, when she felt needed because that girl needed a mother kind of to step in and she needed to feel like she just wanted to belong. I saw so much of myself in that I'm not as overbearing as her, but I really do love taking care of people and I really like to be needed. So I really was like, oh shit. A little bit of me in there.
Aww. Yeah. I really like Gabby's character.
I knew you would. Yeah.
She's just hilarious. And just the way she just has this nonchalant, like the way her lines and she would carry them. It just seems like her acting was so effortless. I can really connect with, but there's a scene that I really love where she goes back to her ex-husband's. There's like a paint, it's a paint show or an art show.
Yep.
And she's convinced that one of the paintings that she was the muse, and just the way she acted. And, just the way she's like, go ahead, say it, like this is me on here. And she just had a real, it felt like a toddler moment in there.
And we all had that when none of us ever want to do that, right? We all want to be the bigger, oh, no, just do it. And you'll feel better.
Yeah. She just really had a toddler moment. Like she threw a hit, not a physical hissy fit, but you could just tell, it was just not her best performance.
It was a human moment.
Totally human moment.
We can all relate because I think in the past I've done something like that, or I may have, wanted to do something like that. And I may not have done it in such a grand way. It may have been a subtle way, but the fact is I did something douchey and I felt like in that moment, why are you giving your power to the other person? Because that's in essence.
But sometimes you have to do that to learn from that. People are always like, oh, don't call your ex-boyfriend. Just call me instead. That's weakness. I'm like, sometimes just do it.
Yeah.
Do it, get out of your system, and then you'll move on and be like, I won't make that mistake again.
It wasn't your proudest moment.
Yeah.
So I could relate to her. And then afterwards, when she reflected afterwards, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So it's just, you're kind of growing with each of the characters on the show.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's what I really like too. Okay, let me see. All three of us have done therapy.
Yep.
We've been in therapy, or we continue to be in therapy. What I want to know is, do you believe in it? Rose?
Now that I'm older, a little wiser, I had my awakening, I want to say. I'm not fully awake, but my meltdown, definitely see it. And again, I think it's all timing in your life perspective. I did counseling, I want to say probably in my late 20s for 2 sessions. And I was like, yeah, this is dumb. And then I tried it again in my 30s. And again, not probably finding but now that I'm 40, and again, finding the right counselor, I see so much, change in myself. I'm seeing even my own journaling has shifted. I definitely think it's necessary because your friends only want to hear so much. Your family can only hear so much. It's also really important to release that without feeling guilty, and then having, someone give you some some tools or some feedback as to how, like for someone like me, I ruminate a lot. I find that I ruminate over something that's happened over and over, and I'm trying to stop ruminating. But when you stop, it gets worse. So you need to just figure out a way to like channel that energy into something else.
Yeah, I agree.
Well said.
Yeah. For me, my issue was I have this unique ability to compartmentalize things and kind of be like Teflon Don's sister, where things won't affect me, but they'll come back a couple years down the road, or they'll fester and they'll brew, and it's like, and then I'll explode. So I found that the compartmentalizing thing will only work for so long. Eventually you're going to explode or implode, because it's not a sustainable way of living. Because the fact of the matter is, when you compartmentalize, you're actually taking that information and just storing it still somewhere in your hardwire. It's still there. You didn't release it. You didn't channel it out. You didn't deal with it. You just parked it and shelved it somewhere. We're like, you know what? It's not important right now. I got to get through stuff. And that's what I always do, is like, you know what? I have this work event, or I got to get through this. I don't have time to deal with this emotion right now. I'm just going to park it in the back of my brain. But it festers and it keeps hitting you like this on the back of the head. Like, yo, bitch, I'm still here.
And it comes back, like you said, years later. I like that you said that. It's very true. It doesn't leave.
Compartmentalize only works for so long. Maybe in your 20s and 30s, but I'm telling you, the minute you hit 40s, it's like, you know what?
It's a different ballgame.
You can't compartmentalize things anymore. Your body will let you know. That's my take on it.
So Al, you're welcome, because we really make sure you don't compartmentalize. We ensure you're set up for success. You're welcome.
Doesn't matter what they always say though. Anyone can do so much for somebody else, but the person has to do the work. You can set me up, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to take the ball and run with it. So when you say though it builds up, it's like when you don't deal with it, it's like hoarders. That stuff's building up slowly, and then 5-10 years later, you're like, oh my god, look at the mess I created. How do I got to work through all this? But at some point, it's like it's gonna slap you in the face, like Will Smith. So you got to deal with it at some point. So for me, I found it very helpful, but I found it also. It's not like your first therapist you meet is just going to be boom. You got to actually realize that, no, it might not be the first time. You got to go try them out, trial and error, and then you find the right one. And if you feel like you're actually getting some changes, you're incorporating them into your life, that's the one you got to stick with. So I've had a lot of benefits from it. And I felt like at some point it was mandatory or completely necessary, because I was not able to cope with my own emotions, my own lifestyle. I was in a point where it was, I don't know what to do. Like I can't input any more substances in my body. I was like, I need to put in something better than that. That's going to go deeper and kind of change my thought process. So I found it really helpful.
Well, I always say that the mind that got you in the jam is probably not going to be the same mind that can help you get out of the jam. So why not get an outside perspective? And like I said, sometimes your friends and family, you're just too close to it. They don't give you unbiased information. So somebody who's outside third party who doesn't know can just give you something else to reflect on.
And it's hard dealing with talking to your own family and friends, because they're also human beings that are dealing with their own life problems too. So how much can you dump onto them? You want to dump into someone that's getting paid for this. But I also find that in person is when I've got the most benefit from. When it's over the phone or Zoom, I felt like I was just like half-assing it, or not really. They weren't seeing the emotions. Like if I'm lying to you, most of the time if you're in person, you're probably going to pick up on that I'm lying to you.
Well, I don't lie to my counselor because I want to get the most bang for my buck. So
I own my shit.
I own my shit.
I own it. And isn't it interesting? The mind is such a powerful thing, because it can make you feel amazing, and it can give you the tools to motivate and triumph. But at the same time, it could be the demise of you if you don't take care of your mind.
It's the gift.
Idle mind is the devil's workshop.
The gift and the curse.
I actually have a motto or a saying when it comes to therapists. I like to compare searching or finding a therapist like finding a good pair of jeans. You know how it takes a while? You got to keep going into different department stores, different stores. You try it on. They're like, that's not a good fit. Oh, this is tight. This is flare. And then until you find that one pair of jeans that fits like a glove, and you're like, this is a fit. But you got to go through a couple pairs of jeans to get the right fit.
You got to do the work.
That's and that's what finding a good therapist is like. You got to go through a couple of, very seldom will you find, it's just like very seldom will you find the first counselor and you gel. Just like the same pair of jeans.
I got lucky.
If you get a pair of jeans, it's like very seldom have I gone into a store looking for a pair of jeans and it fits me on the first shot. It's always been a couple of times. So that's the way I look at it with that. But just the key is don't give up. You will find someone that you will connect with.
Yeah. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. That was great.
I could talk about this subject for
keep going.
For
right. I love it.
It's been so beneficial for me over the years. I've used therapy in my early 30s, in my mid 30s, and then my late 30s, and then now in my 40s. So I just see there's huge benefits. So if you are, contemplating on or seeking some help, or just to speak to someone just about where you are at a point in your life, we, the three of us, the team, highly encourage you to do so. And please feel free to share in your comment section. And if you don't want us to know your handle, just DM us and say, hey, thank you. It's been helping, because we would like to know if some of the things that we're sharing out there, if it's actually benefiting any of our listeners and our viewers. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Like that.
With that said, we are going to sign off. We will be back next week. We hope you have a great week. Please share your win of the week. Don't forget to subscribe to all of our channels or check us out. And until next week, please take care of yourself. Stay safe. And we'll be back next week. Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Take care.